And when we went to the US for the first time, I remember we went to the restaurant and we're like sitting there, the bill, and we just left. And then the waiter is coming to us and she's like, was something wrong? Did you not like it? What was the problem? And we're like, no, everything's fine. Thank you, bye-bye. 7 things that Americans do differently than people from Kazakhstan. If you've seen one of my videos, you probably know that I went to the US to study for about 6 years, and I had some cultural observations and some cultural shock maybe when I was coming from Kazakhstan to the US. In this video, I wanted to specifically focus on what Americans do differently than we do in Kazakhstan. One of the first things that was different and was always mind-boggling to me is obviously the measurement system. It's very different from Kazakhstan. Like here we use the European system, I believe, where we use kilometers, we use liters, we use kilograms and Celsius, but in the US there's Fahrenheit, obviously miles and inches and things like that. And for me, that was like, how do I convert my height? How do I convert this weight of, the products that I'm buying in the grocery store? How do I tell the distance from this area to that area? And I always had to convert, and to this day, I struggle with that, to be honest. But I mean, I have some general idea. For example, like 30 Celsius is around 100 Fahrenheit. But still, like, it was always something that irritated me. But I know it's different there, and I just had to accept it. So I just got used to it as I possibly could. Number 2, and this is the very biggest thing that I noticed right away, is that everyone is so nice. Everyone says hi to you. Everyone smiles at you. And at first it was like really weird to me, because back in Kazakhstan, we never smile to each other. We never say hi to random people on the street. We never greet each other when we don't know. We don't do small talks when there's no purpose for it, or there's no reason for that. And I was telling in my other video that some things that I don't like about Kazakhstan, that people don't smile, and most of the foreigners who come here, they feel a little bit uncomfortable because nobody smiles. And to me, sometimes it's very convenient not to smile and not have to talk to everyone around me, but it's always nice when people are smiling at you, when they greet you, when they say hello, when they ask how are you. And then when someone is walking in front of you into the building and out of the building, you always know that that person is going to hold the door for you, so you rush to the door and try to slide in as fast as possible. So I have never seen that in Kazakhstan. No one ever. I mean, if it's not a guy, and if it's not like a gentleman thing to do, and if you're not on a date usually, or if it's not your relative, it's usually, nobody does that. Nobody holds doors for you. And that's something that I had to learn in the US to do for others, but also it was really nice to discover that. Number 3 is very funny, actually. We in Kazakhstan don't do separate tips. We always have the bill, and the tips are included in there for about 10%. And when we went to the US for the first time, I remember we went to the restaurant and we're like sitting there, we paid the bill and we just left. And then the waiter is coming to us and she's like, was something wrong? Did you not like it? What was the problem? And we're like, no, everything's fine. Thank you, bye-bye. And it's just so funny that we didn't realize that she was like, you were supposed to give me tips and you never did. And we were supposed to thank her for her service. And we had no idea. We were like, yeah, we had the food, we paid for it, what's the problem, But then we were just like laughing at it so hard. We were telling the story to everyone because we didn't know that we had to pay tips. So we came back and then paid the tips, but the waiter was so upset. And it was just, such a funny story, and I keep telling that story to everyone to this day. Number 5 is ice in beverages. Oh my God, I always have to tell everybody not to put ice in my beverages because I'm not used to ice. I don't drink it on a daily basis, and I know that if you just ask for water, it's always going to come with ice. If you ask for any kind of drink, it's going to come with ice. And I know it's just, a common thing in the US, and it's just not common in Kazakhstan, and no one usually gets drinks with ice here unless you specifically ask for it. So that's a main difference when it comes to drinking beverages in Kazakhstan and the US. Number 6 that I noticed that Americans do differently is that they love huge cars. Like we love, Toyota, we love Toyota Land Cruisers, but we don't usually have those pickup trucks that Americans love so much. And in general, in the US, the cars are just like bigger, much bigger than the ones in Kazakhstan. They're not, like in Kazakhstan, they're not as small as in Europe, for example. We also love like big SUVs, fancy cars, but they're not to the point that they're pickup trucks, I once tried to drive those pickup trucks in the US, and it was just like, I was like horrified, like how do I, see the dimensions of the car, how do I feel it, so I don't make any kind of, car accident, and I don't get into any car accidents. So that was funny, and that's definitely something, the biggest that I noticed. And also, if you live in the suburbs, you can never walk into any place, you always have to have a car. And it's not really walkable if you're not in the downtown area in the US usually. And that's one of the things that I also missed, because when you live in the city in Kazakhstan, you always can walk somewhere near, at least like to the nearest kind of places. But in the US, usually it's just so far away, and it's like usually some kind of heat or, cold or something like that. And there's not, a lot of pedestrian walking areas. I mean, to me, like I would never walk in the US if I'm not in the downtown area. So that was the biggest also difference, because in the cities in Kazakhstan, you can pretty much walk anywhere you want to walk. So that's really nice. And another point to that is that in the US, I discovered that for us in Kazakhstan, if it is downtown, it's considered, the best place to be. It's fancy, it's nice, it's beautiful, it's clean. But when you go to the US, downtowns are usually not the cleanest, not the safest, not the nicest, and that's like the area for all the homeless people to be in. So that was like counterintuitive for me, because I was like, oh, we have to go to the downtown, we have to see the nicest places. But then we go there and it's just like pretty rough. So that's one of the biggest differences for us. For like the worst areas of Kazakhstan, they're not going to be really rough, they're not going to be really scary, but they usually are in the outskirts of the city, somewhere really far, because nobody controls that area, there's no police or something, and it's still not that very dangerous as you would think. And in the US, it's a bit more dangerous than in Kazakhstan. Like nobody has guns here, and there, you can easily get shot by some random person on the street. But here, it's like, it doesn't happen that often. And even if you go to the roughest area, you could get like pickpocketed, but still not as common as, in some of the areas in the US. But the countries are so huge in the US and in Kazakhstan, so I can't generalize all the areas, but that's some of the general observations that I had. Last but not least, that Americans do differently than people in Kazakhstan is that we have those corner grocery stores in every almost building, in every residential building, because I don't know if maybe Kazakh people are lazy, but I'm not trying to criticize Kazakh people, but I'm just saying that for some reason, every little house, every little building, if it's like 4 or 5 story building, it usually has some kind of grocery store in the corner. And that's very convenient if you don't want to like go very far to like, big convenience stores, if you just need like, one single item. And that's very convenient. But in the US, you have to usually drive all the way to like supermarkets to get your groceries, and you have to plan for that. And if you live alone, that might be a little annoying sometimes, but both of those things are actually convenient. Like I like the stores in the US, I like, Costco, but in Kazakhstan, I like grocery stores too, because, sometimes I only need like a bag of milk or something. So yeah, corner grocery stores are really convenient in Kazakhstan. Another point that I wanted to mention is that everything is huge in the US. Like, if you buy milk, for example, 1 liter of milk we usually buy here, there's gonna be gallons of milk, and like that would be the smallest packaging, and that's usually about 3 liters. And it's just like, especially if you go to Costco, I mean, obviously Costco is for families, but even if you go to like regular shopping centers or supermarkets, everything is huge. Everything is in big bottles, big packaging, big boxes. And even if you go to restaurants, the plates are this big. And I'm like, when we go with my sister to like some kind of restaurant in the US, we always order one item and just split it between each other. And that's very convenient, especially when you go to like McDonald's, or, you know, there's like always on tap kind of Coke, or, you know, some kind of drink, soft drinks, and they're usually this huge also. And I'm like, why? You know, sometimes it is free. I know it is like very nice to have some freebies, but you should have some kind of, when the restaurant controls the portions, you tend to not overeat. So in Kazakhstan, I wouldn't say they're small, but they're definitely smaller. The portions are smaller, the cups are smaller, and people don't usually serve water here in the restaurant, so you have to buy some kind of drinks, and you usually don't buy that much. So in general, you tend not to overeat in Kazakhstan. But yeah, when it comes to cars, as I said, when it comes to you know, serving sizes, when it comes to packaging, everything is just, you know, double, triple size, and that's something that was really different for me. And that also applies to clothing. Sometimes some of the clothing items were a little bigger than I usually buy them in here. So that's everything that I wanted to mention in this video. We have all those differences that I noticed in the US that Americans do differently than people in Kazakhstan. And I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions for my next video, comment down below. If you like this video, here's the playlist for you for cultural differences between Kazakhstan and the US. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.